Hello everyone. After going over Canvas, now I am going to show you the individual UI elements and how they can be added and used in your scene. We will also see how we can use code to interact with these UI elements and change its properties. And the first two UI elements that we are going to use are panels and images. Both of them are exactly the same, and the only difference between them is how they are used in your UI layout. A panel will be used to show either a background image or to show a background to a small section of your UI button collection, and the image UI element will be used to show small sprites or images on your screen. You can add an image by right clicking inside your hierarchy, going to the UI tab and then clicking on the image. This will create a image UI element for you, and if you don't have the canvas and the event system in your hierarchy, it will also create those for you. Now in the image UI element, the components are the rect transform, which can be used to manipulate the position, rotation, and the scale of your UI element. And we have the image component. The image component takes a sprite as an input, and that sprite will be shown inside this UI element. So if I am going to change the sprite to the check mark or to another sprite, for example the background sprite, so this sprite will be shown inside this UI element. The other properties of the image component is the color, which directly multiplies your given color with the original sprite color. And you can also apply a material here, and this is similar to how you can apply to a material to a 3D object, and it changes the visual properties of that element. And the raycast target toggle determines if your UI element is going to block the click or other events of your GUI system. So if I am clicking on the screen here, this UI element can block my click, and any UI element behind this image won't receive that click event. So if there is a button behind this UI element and this image UI element is set to block raycast, then that button won't receive that click event, so it will appear that the button has not been clicked. So you can either turn it on or off. So if your image is just a decorative image and you don't intend to block clicks on buttons, you can turn this off. The last option here is the image type, and the first option of image type is simple. In this image type, the your whole sprite will be filled in your UI element rectangle just as it is. So the image will be scaled according to the size of your UI element. So in this case our image is of the size 32 pixel into 32 pixels, and if our this image is very big, you can see how the image is scaled, and we can see some pixelations happening on the edge. Here you have another option of preserve aspect. This ensures that whenever you are rescaling your UI element, the image always remains in the same aspect ratio as the original sprite. So in this case we have a sprite which is square in size, 32 pixel into 32 pixels. Now even if my UI element is in the shape of rectangle, that image will always remain as square. So if I turn the preserve aspect off, then my UI element would scale my sprite to fill the whole UI element. And so if preserving your aspect is intended, you can turn this option on. One problem that you have noticed here is that if I'm using this image for a button which has a bigger size than the original sprite, I can't really use this image on my screen because of the pixelation and blurriness that is happening over the edge. So I intended to be a sharp button with smooth, round, and sharp edges. But whenever my image is getting bigger, that sharpness is removed from the image. So to solve that problem, the next image type is sliced, which is also called the 9 slice method of uh, applying an image for use in buttons and other things, where you have a small where you create a very small sprite, and using that sprite you can fill another image of varying size, of bigger sizes, and still preserve the clarity or definition in your images. So how 9 slice works is that, suppose you have this image of the size 32 into 32, and you divide your image into 9 slices. So here we have first slice, and we have uh, 4 slices at each of the corners. We have 4 slices at our edges, and we have a slice in the center. So the rule for 9 slices is that all the slices at your corner, this the top left corner and these rest of these 3 corners, they are drawn exactly how they are without any scaling. So if I have my image here of size, let's say of size 100 into 100, when the edges are drawn here for my new bigger image using this small sprite, this edge here will be drawn exactly how big it is in the original sprite. So it will just take this portion here, which may be of the size 8 pixel into 8 pixels, and it will copy exactly this area over to my bigger sprite, which is of size 100 into 100. Similar for all the 4 corners, and the edge slice, which consists of these 4 slices at the edge of my original sprite. When this edge is drawn in the bigger image, they are scaled only in the horizontal direction. So imagine here in my 100 into 100 image, this portion is drawn by scaling this portion. There is no vertical scaling, so this line doesn't gets blurred. Now using this slice, I will draw the rest of the edge and the corners of my bigger button, and the every area except the edges and the corners is drawn by expanding my center slice. So I can show you how it looks by removing the fill center option. Now you can see the edges which are drawn by directly using this slice, and in this area it is drawn by horizontally scaling my this slice, and this area would be drawn by vertically scaling this slice, and all the rest of the area of the button is drawn by scaling both in horizontal and vertical direction, just expanding uh, the center slice to fill the whole area. 9 slices, a very useful technique. It is used in most of the games to achieve uh, buttons or images of varying size, which can be created with just a single small sprite of small resolution. So you should go and check out in more details about the 9 slicing technique. Just below the sliced option, we have the tiled option. It is similar to the 9 slice option, and the only difference being that this the areas in which uh, scaling happens. For example, this area is scaled when used on bigger squares. So in the 9 sliced option, they will just expand your sprite. So if there was an image here, it would be expanded and it won't look good. So to counter that problem, in the tiled option, they will not expand this sprite, but they will tile it. So if there is an image here which is tileable or repeatable, then it would look better than just scaling it to fill the whole area. The last option of image type is filled, where you have lots of different methods where you can decide how much your sprite would be filled and how much would be empty. So let's go over some of them. The first fill method is horizontal. Here you have some options of from where you want the filling to start, and you can control the fill amount, and you can see it decides how much of your sprite is shown and how much is not shown. Similarly, we can use the radial fill, which you can see, and you can also control the clockwise or anti-clockwise direction of your fill. So these you can use this image type if you want to show some special effects like showing a cooldown or showing a health bar using the horizontal fill, etc.